Many of us are not aware of what's coming and have no idea how to prepare for it. We lock away into our lives and don't pay attention to the details that could potentially put us in a better position. But now more than ever, those details are very expensive. Many of us are being put in tight positions.
Things are worse than ever.
Yet we all want to make a little bit more money. So how can we make that possible in the middle of this recession? I think it's time that we talk about how to protect ourselves during this recession. Let's call it a little bit of recession protection. With these rising costs coming, who knows what could happen? And those that are prepared are going to be ahead of the ones that are not, this time and every time. Let's break up into categories how I prepared for the recession, starting off with debt. Debt, why is that important? Debt is absolutely the first thing you should start with, seeing as most of us in America don't seem to do too well with it.
The average American, is carrying more than $96,000 in debt.
And we're not just talking about one type of debt. We're talking about all kinds of debt. Student loan debt, credit card debt, household debt, car loan debt, and you get the picture. So how do we pay down these debts effectively? Well, I'll show you a method I use which was effective for me in paying down all my debts, which is called the avalanche method. Let's use an example so you guys can get a better understanding of how the avalanche method works. Let's say you have 5 credit cards, which is the first column, each one with different balances. Starting with the one with the highest balance, seeing as most of us in America don't seem to do too well with it. $50, $1,000, and lastly $650. But if you look to the column to the right, which is the interest rate, each interest rate is different, as is with the column to the right of that, which is the minimum monthly payment. Now, which credit card should we pay down first?
Pick me!
If you chose any option other than credit card 4, then you're not using the avalanche method. As you can see, it has the highest interest rate with one of the smallest balances. But when you have a high interest rate, that debt could compound on itself and therefore leave you in more debt than a higher balance and a lower interest rate, say like credit card 3. If you take a look at the last column, which is the debt avalanche payment amount, you can see that every credit card was paid to its minimum monthly, except for credit card 4, which we paid extra on and we're going to pay aggressively, because that's what the avalanche method is about. It's about paying your debt with the highest interest rate and paying it down aggressively while paying the minimum on all your other debts. And this can go for credit cards, your mortgage, or any other debt that you want to aggressively pay down. So you see, paying down your debt is one of the most important things you can do before a recession, in a recession, and after a recession, because it allows you to have the opportunity where others don't have the opportunity. Say something comes up that you want to buy or you want to purchase through credit. How can you do that if you're in severe debt? A lot of people in America are. But if you use this method, it might just help you out like it did me. So let's move on to something else that could help you guys during the recession, and that's protecting our 401ks and investments from a catastrophic stock market collapse. Now briefly, for those of you who don't know what a 401k is, a 401k is an employer-sponsored savings plan that allows workers to set aside a portion of their paycheck for retirement. Sounds good, right? Yeah, sounds good to me. Well, that's until you factor in how successful most 401ks really are. You see, America kind of pulled a slick one on us when it got rid of pensions. Not all pensions, but it's practically extinct. You see, 401ks were practically made by mistake by a guy named Ted Benna, who was coming up with viable options for retirement plans for his company. Now, ironically, this is what he now says about 401k plans and the traditional 401k.
Yeah, I think what made this so difficult is the fact that stocks and bonds tanked together. The strategy of being diversified just didn't work.
Say that one more time.
Didn't work.
Here's a chart that shows the median and average ages of 401k account holders in America. Here's what the average American has versus what's recommended. And if we're looking at the median 401k balance, which is even lower than the average, then we have a problem. You can see here that they kind of set this as a guide for older savers, middle-aged savers, and younger savers. Each one in each category is what most Americans should have. And if you look at these two charts, nobody by age is close to the recommended amount of money you should have for retirement. So the question becomes, why aren't we protecting ourselves and doing something about it? You see, as I was told once by a very smart man, thanks Pops, knowing something and doing something about it are two different things. So what did I do to protect my 401k? Well, the same thing I did to protect my investments. I diversified everything, which means I took what I had and I shuffled it around. In the case of my 401k, I was able to shift most of my assets over to US bonds, which is considered a risk-free asset, meaning there's no risk to the investor that they will lose their principal. Key words, no risk. And that is exactly what we're looking for to protect ourselves in a recession. I mean, it's almost equivalent to taking your money out and sitting it on the side while the storm passes. So while we got our 401k and investments down and pat, we still have to worry about this recession. And I'm afraid just protecting your 401k and your investments is not enough to get ahead. You have to take it one step farther. That requires some ingenuity, which brings me to our next category, and that is keeping your credit score high.
What you talking about?
Honestly, this should be a no-brainer, but you'll be shocked to find out how many people don't take credit seriously. Don't think of a good credit score as something you want to have. Think of it as a necessity, something you absolutely can't live without. Recessions are brutal, and only those with strong credit scores will be left in a positive position. Here's a look at the average credit score in America as of 2022, and surprisingly, it's pretty high. Credit scores have been increasing over the last 10 years due to financial literacy awareness and sites like YouTube that get information out to people in a timely manner. But as always, there's a catch. The majority of those high credit scores are coming from high earners and older generations, meaning we have more work to do to get the message out to the people who aren't understanding how powerful credit can be in your life. So how do we protect our credit scores during a recession? Here's a look at how they break down your credit score when determining how high it is, with payment history being the most important factor at 35%. And that's where I'll suggest that you start. Recessions cause a lot of us to make hard decisions, so it's no coincidence that a lot of us miss payments during these recessions. And of course, as you know, that could be detrimental to your credit score. Not all bills are tied to your credit score. Exactly. Not meaning that you can skip out on the bills that are not as important. You just have to prioritize. Expensive cable may not be a priority over you not paying your rent or your mortgage. My guess is you'll live. Whether or not you believe in credit, you have to admit that it's the building blocks to wealth. And if it's about building wealth, well, this is the channel we want to be on. What are you doing to protect yourself from the recession? Go ahead and leave a comment down below, like the video, and subscribe to the channel if you like this type of content. I'm Javo, this is Javo TV, and until next time, be safe.